Welcome to Embrace Joy, Walking the Road to Restoration. My name is Joy LaPiccolo, and I am going to be your trail guide as we walk this road to freedom. In the last episode, I shared with you a little bit about some of the abuse I experienced in different relationships. Part of that abuse is what is called gaslighting. This term actually comes from a stage play which was called Gaslight, written in 1938. The husband attempts to drive his wife crazy by dimming the lights in their home, and then he actually denies that the light changed when his wife points it out. It is an extremely effective form of emotional abuse. It causes the victim to question their own feelings, their instincts. Sometimes they don't even believe they're sane anymore. And it gives the abusive partner a lot of power. Often, once an abusive partner has broken down the victim's ability to trust, the victim is more likely to stay in that abusive relationship. Now, listener, as we talk today, I hope it is going to be an encouragement to add this knowledge, not something to depress you. God designed us to be in relationships with Him, with others, but please understand He certainly does not approve of individuals using power and control over another. Oftentimes, those who are closest to us have the highest chance for deceiving us. A wife, we want to be cherished. We want to be treasured by our husband. A child wants their parents' approval. There's nothing wrong with that. That's who we were designed to be. And since we're looking for that in relationships, that leads to us being very vulnerable. Now, Paul speaks of this in Romans 16:18. He says, "For such men are slaves, not of our Lord Christ, but of their own appetites. And by their smooth and flattering speech, they deceive the hearts of the unsuspecting." If reality is observing things that are true, then Paul warns the church about people who do not want them to see what is true. They don't want them to see what is reality. They want the people in the church drawn to a false world, their reality. It is important to know that these abusers are actually lovers of themselves. Now, all of us are lovers of self to a certain extent, but these individuals are not just drawn away by their own desires. From time to time, they are actually slaves to them because they are self-deceived. They seek to deceive others. Their words are often very charming and persuasive. Even when we realize it doesn't sound right, they may actually say, "Hey, you made me do this to you," or "You really deserved much worse." And sometimes their delivery will convince us. This is true when we have a more intimate relationship. It's possible that you have experienced this, and I have experienced this, but they may use words to confuse us even after a physical or sexual assault. As a victim, we know the assault was wrong, but because of the convincing language, we begin to question that abuse. When you think about what gaslighting is, it is important to look at all of your relationships, not just your spouse, your partner, but also your parents, your children, even your employer. Look at what things are going on in your life. What are some of the results that are happening in your life? It may not be gaslighting, but it may be other areas where you need support. Acknowledging that something is wrong is the first step to healing. There are a couple things that I jotted down to help you understand if you are experiencing gaslighting. And I wish so much I had known this information before I had entered into some of the relationships that I had in my life. So, a couple things that you may want to jot down is maybe you are feeling like you are a different person. Now, I have spent years and years teaching. I was known as a expert in various areas, a high expert in various areas of teaching. And I was involved in ministry at my church and known for doing very well at ministry and helping a lot of different people. However, when I first started experiencing gaslighting back in 2001, I started to doubt if I was a good teacher. I started to withdraw from the ministry that I had at church. Was definitely not the same person that I was created to be. Maybe you're experiencing low self-esteem, and a lot of that is because the words spoken over us have us questioning if we are capable. Maybe you are being told you are too sensitive, and that could be words that were spoken over to you even as a child, and those words could be continued on into adulthood. Are you finding yourself apologizing a lot? Again, that might be related to a lack of trust, a lack of self-esteem. A couple other ways that tell you if you're experiencing gaslighting is you start to doubt your intuition. Maybe you're finding difficulty making decisions. Are you feeling like everything you do is wrong? Maybe you're finding yourself making excuses for your partner. I was in a relationship where there was a lot of deception, a lot of degrading words, and there was a particular instance where we were both going in for medical care at a facility, and after a couple months, one of the individuals that worked there came up to me and explained some of the words that had been spoken to her by this individual, this abuser. I was shocked. I felt shame that I had allowed this abuser to come in contact with this person, knowing that it was possible that he was going to use words that were degrading. And so I started making excuses for his behavior, explaining that he had been through a lot and that's the reason why he didn't respect women, and I explained I would make sure he never came back to that facility again. So that's another way of understanding if you are experiencing gaslighting, is if you feel the need to make excuses for that abuser. Now the good news is with God, you can stop being affected by this gaslighting. I came across a list of ways you can stop gaslighting, and this was written by an individual on Instagram. Their handle is at the Gaslight Effect, and I hope some of these tools will be helpful for you. I mentioned earlier about acknowledging what is going on. That's number one, is name it for what it is. We are often told to push down our feelings, push down our thoughts, not relying on reality. So once you know what is going on, being more aware of it, allowing your feelings, allowing your thoughts, then you can start to be able to change what is going on. So acknowledging it is so important. Number two is to set boundaries. And I'm picturing you on the other side of this podcast, listening to this podcast, and I'm sure that you have heard that boundaries are important. And maybe, like me, you've done it, you've tried it, they weren't respected, you tried a different way to do the boundaries, and it was not just not working. I encourage you to keep building those boundaries. The book Boundaries, which is written by Dr. Henry Cloud and John Townsend, explains why you have the right to set boundaries, how to set those boundaries, ways to make sure those boundaries are respected. And part of that, I encourage you to learn a very important phrase. The phrase is, "That's not true." They don't like that phrase, but you say it not for them, you're saying it for you because you know the truth. They are relying for you to listen to their lies. So boundaries, so important. Number three is to develop ways to improve your intuition and your self-esteem. Because again, you've lost your voice. After my first marriage, again, I did not think that I was worthy. I did not think I was capable. And it affected my career. I joined an organization called Toastmasters. If you're not familiar with it, it is a worldwide organization that helps individuals with public speaking. Through that work, through Toastmasters, I began to trust my voice. The individuals in the group that I belonged to were shocked when 3 or 4 months in I explained why I had joined Toastmasters. They did not see the low self-esteem that I had. They could not comprehend the thoughts and the degrading thoughts that I had in my head. And that helped me to build up my self-esteem and change the course of my career to where I was the person that I used to be. So what ways can you develop your intuition and raise your self-esteem? Number four is to journal. And I'm sure you've heard that before as well. But really, it's another way to speak your voice. By writing down your thoughts, writing down your feelings, write down write down the lies that you have been hearing, the deceptions, because once you put it on paper, it's easier for you to understand, oh, that is a lie, and what is the truth. Now, I've tried journaling over the years, and sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. And so I really tried to figure out why it was not working. One of the reasons why is I hate my handwriting. So I'd journal and then I couldn't read what I had written. The other reason why I didn't like journaling is when I started to find my voice, I had so many thoughts in my head that I actually was listening to again, and I couldn't write fast enough when all those thoughts were going through my head. I also was very concerned that someone could come across my journal, and so I stopped journaling for that reason. I came across an app that's on my phone, and actually you can access it on your computer as well. And this app is called Diaro. So instead of diary, the Y is an O, Diaro. It's a free app. It allows you to go ahead and make sure it's password protected, very confidential. You are able to actually speak into the app and it will translate into text no matter how fast you talk. So I encourage you to check that out, and that might help you to journal some of the thoughts that you have been having, especially journaling the truth that you are uncovering through scripture. Number five is so important. This is probably the most important thing, is they want you to live in isolation. If they can have you live in isolation, then you're only listening to them, listening to their sense of reality. So you need to have support. Do not do life alone. Find trustworthy people around you that can listen to you and verify the words that you're saying and verify what reality really is. Now, when I'm talking about getting support, if you are experiencing feelings of depression or hopelessness, please seek out professional help. I am going to put a link in the description for resources you can use to receive that professional help. Now, listening to all this information, maybe this podcast was too much. I'm not sure. But I felt very strongly that I needed to go ahead and address the subject. Maybe you feel uncertain, your foundation is kind of rocky. Perhaps, like me, you have been walking on eggshells for years, trying to avoid the deception, the power, and the control from your abuser, so you feel like you don't have a strong foundation. I want you to know that God is your strong foundation. Strong foundation. And I hope you will learn that you can rely on Jesus. He is safe. He is loving. He is kind. He is ever present. His promises are true. And He intercedes for us. Now, how do you know if what I just said was true? If you look up Romans 8:34, it details Christ's characteristics. He has adopted you into His royal family, and you can cast your cares on Him because He cares for you. And that truth is found in 1 Peter 5:7. If you are interested in inner healing prayer or a coaching session walking you through the steps to freedom or other one-on-one coaching programs, please reach out to me. You don't need to go through this struggle alone. I pray that through this information, you will reach out to Christ for His truth to walk this road to restoration.